Hi, this is Drake Finney with Havasu Online TV. We're just a few minutes away from starting with the candidates forum. We'll be sharing it out and getting it out here. Also be watching the screen as we will be later on watching the feed for Havasu Online TV. We will be getting each candidate's information and candidacies information, and we will be reposting that so we can get those to you as soon as possible. So we want to thank you for joining us. They're still setting up downstairs. As you hear them, they're about a minute away, so we'll be going right to it. Again, it's Havasu Online TV, bringing you the 2022 Candidates Forum, sponsored by Bradley Auto Group. That's Bradley Ford, Bradley Chevy, Riverview Automotive, and Bradley Collision Center.
Okay. Andrew Dowling to the stage, please. Andrew Dowling to the stage. We're at 1 minute left. 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2022 Candidates Forum. It's day 4 and many passes First things first, I'd like everybody to rise and we will All right, I'm Paul LaVoy from KNTR Talk, the host of Speak Out, and my co-host Brandon Bauer. And Brandon, SamsGuns.com, GDK LLC, Bradley Auto Group Family of Dealerships, Need Pull and Supply, the Committee to Elect Mark Curry, Against All Enemies Armory, Horizon Community Bank, and Mojave Mist and Spa. We'd also like to ask the members of the audience to either turn off your phones or put them on silent or vibrate mode. And since tonight is all about the candidates, I'll turn it over to Brandon for the introduction and the format for our first group of candidates.
Hey there. We're starting with the congressional candidates for Arizona District 9. We have Sandra Dowling, Adam Morgan, and Randy Cuss with us. Each of them will be given a chance to give a 1-minute introduction, and then we will get to a round of questions. Each question will give you 90 seconds to answer. Kathy and Lisa will be keeping the time. When it goes off, we would ask that you wrap it up because we've got this thing very limited in time progressing. So if you would help us get through it, that'd be helpful. We're going to start by drawing a number. Whoever gets the lowest number will get to go first, and then we'll just go in seat order. So we can do that now.
Brandon's going to walk the numbers over, and our three candidates will choose which order they go in. Kind of narrating for radio, folks, so bear with me. I'm not just trying to hear the sound of my own voice. So everybody has a number. Which order are we going in? Adam Morgan will go first. Adam, you have the microphone.
Thank you very much. It's on. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that is what we have been doing here in Havasu and in this congressional district for the last 12. A consensus, we need statesmanship, we need leadership. Those things have been sorely missing. We've got to worry about water. We've got to worry about protecting our constitutional rights, like our Second Amendment rights. We've got to worry about. I've got something right. I'll keep that in the last 30 seconds. And so my name is Adam Morgan. I'm a West Point graduate. I'm a former Army Ranger. I work in cybersecurity. I protect the nation's weapons systems and networks for the government. And we have modern problems and we need modern solutions. I've also helped to disrupt the financial networks of criminal organizations and cartels. And I really appreciate your vote and look forward to answering all your questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Next to Sandra Dowling.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yes. Good evening. My name is Dr. Sandra Dowling. I am almost an Arizona native. My parents moved here when I was 3, so I was involuntarily transplanted into Arizona. But it quickly became my home. It's the only place I've known, except for right after high school. I went to Cortez High School in Phoenix, down in the valley. And when I got out of high school in 3 years instead of 4, I joined the United States Marine Corps. And I tell everyone it was the smartest mistake I ever made. You learn a lot in the Marine Corps. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your values, and you learn a lot about how to focus for the future. In this particular situation, after I got out of the Marine Corps, by the time I came back home, I was married, and we had already started our family. So I decided that my children were going to be raised here, and all of them went to Arizona schools. I myself am a graduate of Glendale Community College, did the 2-year program. Also, Arizona State University, I have a doctorate degree from Northern Arizona University. My campaign is about putting people over politics and making sure that the people get taken care of their issues, whether it be veterans issues, whether it be Social Security, whether it be border issues, the economy. We have lots of things, and look forward to the discussion and any questions you may have.
For 30 seconds there as well.
Good evening, everyone. On? All right, there we go. Good evening. Thank you so much to the chamber, to the paper, residents of Lake Havasu City. Thank you so much for being here this evening. My name is Randy Cutts. I'll help you out with the name. If you see my signs, it's Cutts, as in cuts taxes, cuts regulation, cuts spending. I'm a limited government guy. My wife and I have lived, worked, worshipped, and raised our family in the western part of Arizona for nearly 30 years. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a constitutional America First candidate. Years for former Congressman Trent Franks. 5 years I was his chief of staff in Washington, and I'm honored to have Trent's endorsement of this in this race. Trent represented all of Mojave County, inclusive here of Lake Havasu, for 10 years. Friends, I'm running is in trouble, and our
Questions, we're allowing 90 seconds for the answer. We do ask that you try to stay within that 90 seconds. We will ask you to wrap it up if it goes much beyond that. The first question, I will start, and Paul and I will alternate on these questions, so he'll do the next one. The first question would be for Adam Morgan. What specific actions would you take to help end partisan gridlock and political divisiveness in Washington?
Tough task. That's a tough task for the first question. Right? I did it. Yeah, and so the Republican Party has always been the party that unifies the country, right? It's happened time and time again with Lincoln, with Teddy Roosevelt, with Ronald Reagan. And it is time for the Republican Party to take that and carry it on. And we can do that by talking about our conservative values, right, without being divisive. And so when I talk to people of all generations, when we start talking about what's important to them and freedom and what the government can do to stay out of your business, I really think that's a big way to start to break it up. And you can do it in ways that you talk to the other side, the gridlock that you talk about, and you find common ground and find ways to do those type of things. And really a lot of it is attitude, and the other part is leadership. When someone looks at someone and they tweet things out all the time, or they're always bragging about sticking it to the other side, you're never going to get anything done. And like I said, voting no on everything is not going to get where we need to go. We need to find ways to work together. That's what you're putting someone like me in Congress for, and that's what I'm going to do for you.
Thank you. And I should specify the same question will be asked of all three candidates. The next question will be asked by Paula, and we'll start with Sandra now on that round. But this question is for Sandra as well. What specific actions would you take to help end partisan gridlock and political divisiveness in Washington?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to stop attacking each other, because part of the problem in Washington is we're too busy attacking each other. I don't like the term rhino. I don't like the term right-wing conservative. I don't like the term nut. I do like the term Republican, and that's what we all are. We have got to prepare ourselves for a united front. If we do not come together in 2022, Joe Biden is going to continue his divisive agenda for another 2 years, uncontrolled and unchecked. We have got to start talking to each other. Second thing we need to do is we need to reach across the aisle, because not all the Democrats are enemies. I can tell you that there's a lot of issues that we happen to agree on. And 80% of the things, 90% of the issues that go through the halls of Congress are part of leadership. A couple of years ago, my husband and I went to China. And this is before coronavirus, way before. But when we were there, they said something very interesting to us. They said, please know that the government of China and the government of the United States, they don't like each other. The people of China, though, they love the United States, and we hope you, when you live here, you love them as much. And I think that's kind of the same with our Republican and Democratic leaders. They don't like each other. And we can all come to the, doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent, and there's several independents in Congress today. Thank you.
It takes a couple of 5 seconds to reset the clock here.
While we're waiting, Randy, do you need me to repeat the question? Okay.
Great. It's a great question, often misunderstood. Let me just tell you that you need someone in Congress who will stand up and not let the nonsense continue. There are things that we ought not to be doing in Congress. I can name 30 trillion of them. Friends, we are in debt up to our eyeballs. And the problem in Congress is oftentimes the water on the inside of the boat is what sinks the boat. You expect the left to be doing what the left will do. But there's a lot of constitutional authorities that have gone by the wayside. Congress has the power of the purse, and it continues year over year to cede that authority to the executive agencies and to the president, quite frankly. Congress needs to take back the power of the purse, limit government spending, and then hold the federal agencies to account. We need to defund, deregulate, and diminish the size of our federal bloated bureaucracy. And that's the job of the U.S. Congress. And to that I will stand up and say no. No more, not on my watch. Now, compromise is a dirty word. My career has been spent as a negotiation coach. I'm a principled constitutional conservative. I will not compromise on core principles. But we can find common ground when we do this. When we limit what we're actually voting on. I don't think any bill should be longer than the U.S. Constitution. 4,000 words, you can read it in 30 minutes. Full transparency. No one has to pass it to wonder what's in it. And if we can focus on small bills, we can actually get stuff done for the American people.
Right under the bell. For the second question, and we'll start with Dr. Sandra Dowling. With increasing concerns about water, especially from the Colorado River, how should Arizona and other western states ensure that there's enough water for existing and future residents? 90 seconds, right?
There are many things that are on the table right now related to water. Some of it has to do with drilling, some of it has to do with desalinization plants, some of it has to do with cloud seeding. There are many different issues that are out about. The problem that we have right now is The federal government is not in control of everything. The state government also has a role to play, and that you need to communicate on any type of water policy. I think that we've seen that with the policy that Governor Ducey has come forward with. The concern that I have right now is in that process right now, by the time any water gets to Arizona, we might end up in a tier 2 or possibly even a tier 3. If we end up in a tier 3, that means that when you go to turn water on in your home, it may not be there. So water is got to be at the very, very top of the agenda as far as what we do in order to solve the problem. But the cities and the state and the federal government have to work together on it.
Randy Cutts, do you need to repeat the question? Okay.
Folks, no one needs to.
Hold on a second. We're going to reset the clock here.
It's a basketball clock and it doesn't have 3069.
Right.
So I apologize.
Lisa Kruger is explaining that it's a basketball clock, and there's not just a quick reset on it. So. Kathy's done this a few times though, so we got this. All right, Mr. Cutts, we're ready.
One more second on that. Look, no one needs to explain to Lake Havasu City that you've got water issues. No one needs to explain that. They're serious issues. I was at a forum, a water forum, a week ago. I read the article in the paper today, Lake Havasu Press, about what the state legislature has done. And good on them, they put some money for water infrastructure and some of the things that happen there. On the federal side, $8 billion has been appropriated on the infrastructure bill for water infrastructure in the Southwest. There are short-term issues and there are long-term issues. We have a long-term drought situation. Automatic adjustments have to happen for conservation. We can't conserve our way out of this, and you all know that. So I will listen, I will learn, I will lead to make sure that the federal government facilitates but does not dictate what happens. Arizona is the only state that has mandated conservation laws. Mandated. We're doing our work. California, let me just tell you, it'd be easier to work with Mexico than it will be with California. We're just not going to be able to do that as efficiently as we might think we would. But there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of issues, and I think everything needs to be put on the table. The Western Caucus is something I would join to make sure that I work with other members of Congress and other states to come up with bipartisan solutions, making sure that we involve everyone. Everyone should have a seat at the table. And on our eastern part of our state, I was at the conference, they don't have water issues. There are ways to bring water from the eastern side of the state, even into the western side of the state, and help replenish some of our aquifers. But all issues should be on the table for all players to be at the table to discuss that and solve it for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Randy Cutts. And I'll be resetting the clock. I guess the clock is reset. Adam Morgan, do you need the question reread?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't even think I need 90 seconds for this. Yeah, I wrote an op-ed that was here in the Havasu Herald. It's been in some other papers. I got it outside there. This is the United States of America, right? There should not be a water shortage in the United States of America, right? That should not happen. When the French threw down their shovels and their picks, and they said it's impossible to build the Panama Canal, the United States picked them up and they finished the Panama Canal, right? When we wanted to put a man on the moon, we put a man on the moon. So don't tell me that we cannot pump water from somewhere else inside the United States and get the water we need here. Because we are not, thank you. We can do it, right? These are the projects that the federal government should be looking at. Very few things the federal government should be doing. Interstate waterways, interstate commerce, that's one of them. And if we can get that done, we can enthuse and we can have a whole generation of engineers and laborers and project managers that can really see America getting back to work, doing that work here in the United States. And for me, it's just a question of are we going to conserve our way out of it? We do all these things. It doesn't work anywhere. History has shown you're never going to be able to do it in any country, in any place. Let's get more water in. I really appreciate the work that Sonny and Leo and everyone is doing at the state level to be able to do this, and the local levels, but it's not a state and local problem. You need somebody in the federal government that's going to pick that up and is going to do it for you. Thank you.
All right, Brandon Bowers is going to read the next question.
This question will begin with Randy Cutts. The question is a two-parter. Do you believe that the 2020 presidential election results were legitimate? And what, if anything, should be done to improve the nation's election security?
Friends, we can declare that we had voter fraud. People know, and you can determine fraud and sort of define fraud on so many different levels. Fraud absolutely existed within this last election at so many levels, whether it ballot harvesting, ballot trafficking, whether it was suppressing legitimate news stories like Hunter Biden's laptop, or unfair, illegitimate stories about President Trump. All of those things did have an impact on this election. I wouldn't go so far as saying that it was a stolen election. I think that only infuriates and creates a sideshow and a red herring. It's not helpful. But what has been done and what ought not to be done are two things. What has been done is put a big spotlight on the problem we have at the state, local level. And laws have been enacted, and there are changes that are happening to make sure that we have free, fair, and full elections that are full of integrity. But one thing that ought not to happen, and I'm a big fan of making sure that the election process does not get federalized. That's what the left wants to have happen. H.R. 1 was a big power grab, an attempt by the left to grab hold of the federal electoral process. That cannot happen. We've got to fight and make sure that is maintained locally. And friends, there's a lot of other ideas that are out there of how to secure elections, but every American voter and every American candidate needs to make sure that their vote counts and their vote was counted legally and legitimately.
Next, Adam Morgan.
So when the rules change, right, whether those rules are legitimately changed in states or they're done, in the cover of darkness and at night, the rules change. You need to figure out how to win based on those new rules before you can get those changed back, right? So when the NFL instituted the forward pass, you could sit around all day and complain about, the fact that I'm running the ball all the time and they're throwing the ball. We have to start throwing the ball as Republicans, right? We need to start playing this game the same way. We need to organize, and we need to make sure that these things don't happen again. And this isn't something that happened overnight. In these states, these things have been changing over the last 20 and 30 years, and we've all sat around, watched them happen, and we haven't done anything about it. So that this came out, and that we've seen this, we have to make sure that we stop it. And if we don't do something and put new people in 2022, we will have the same results in 2024. And I also think it's important to make sure that we stand up for these things, and when we do it fully. We don't encourage people to go into the Capitol. We don't rile up a crowd, tell them that we're going to be with them, and then abandon them like our representative did. That is poor leadership. If I am in Congress and I believe in something, I will sacrifice everything to make sure that it's made right. Thank you.
We're still waiting for the call.
We'll repeat the question while we're waiting. Yeah, it is a two-parter. The first part is, do you believe the 2020 presidential election results were legitimate? And what, if anything, should be done to improve the nation's election security?
We did everything we could to double check the election in Maricopa County to see if there was election fraud, and we could not prove that there was any election fraud that was equal to that 10,000 votes. What we have.
Quiet, please.
What we do have is we have 67,000 people in the state of Arizona that chose not to vote for President of the United States. They left it blank. Now, I'm not an expert on elections. I conducted elections for school districts for 20 years, so I know a little bit more than the average person does. But when we send people in and we try to find the errors and the discrepancies and we don't find them, at some point we have to decide to move forward and to move on and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. In our legislature this last year, there were over 100 election bills that were put into play, and many of them were passed and were signed into law. I believe that in this next election, we are going to have a much more secure and much more reliable election, and we're going to have a lot more confidence in the election than what we did in the last election because of the work that the legislature has done. And they have absolutely done yeoman's work and done everything they can to ensure the election integrity itself. As Republicans, I think that it's going to be important for us to find out internally what happened to those 67,000 people that didn't vote and why they didn't vote. I mean, that was critical because we only lost by 10,000 and with 67,000 people not voting. That could have made the difference in the election itself.
Okay, starting with, are we back to Adam? Okay. Our next question, what is the top thing Congress should do to fight inflation and improve the economy? Adam Morgan?
So first off, there needs to be a Hippocratic oath for Congress, right? Do no harm. And so they are spending money that we don't have on programs we don't need. So first, we can start to rein in those programs. There are billions and billions of dollars in programs that were started. They're supposed to be temporary programs. The last, executive, the last 2 executives that have been there that have started these programs, they were supposed to be temporary, and Congress has not done their job of making sure that those are shut down. So the first thing we do is let's cut all this unnecessary spending on programs that really aren't doing anything for people. The other part too is to make sure that there is oversight. So we have lost our seat on the oversight committee, which is, in my opinion, the most important seat in Congress. That is what Congress does. They have oversight ability for the rest of the government, and that is very important to hold everyone's feet to the fire and say, listen, you are not going to waste our money anymore. We're not going to print money on these things. And we're going to find ways to rein this in. Ready the next 30 seconds, or is that good?
No, that's fine.
All right.
You're good, we're good. All right. Dr. Dowling, still resetting the clock. Again, what is the top thing Congress should do to fight inflation and improve the economy? 90 seconds.
I think the most important thing they need to do is they need to focus on their job. And one of the things that has got to be a priority is people have to become more important in the politics and the drama of what's going on in Washington, D.C. We have seen enough drama. We need to start focusing on issues that are important to the district. How many people here believe that if they needed their government would make the right decision for them? Can I see a show of hands? I'm not seeing any hands go up. See, that's a fallacy in our system. How many people in this room believe that if you are eligible for Social Security, that money's going to be there and you're going to be able to live out the rest of your life and still get your Social Security benefits? I don't see any hands going up. How many people believe that the veterans in this country are being treated fairly? I will tell you they're not. My son passed away 2 years ago, and he died from toxic burn pit exposure in Iraq. He served his country, and when he came home, they told him the burn pit bill that went before Congress on March the 3rd, the Congress that we have from Flagstaff actually voted no to provide health care benefits to the veterans. Anybody aware of that? Every single veteran that signs a blank check when they come home, they ought to get that same blank check returned to them in their benefits. It's that important. When you start taking a look at the border issue, is there anybody here who believes that Biden's border plan is effective and working?
That is the time, but I would like to give you 30 more seconds just to talk about the inflation and the economy in general, because I think you're answering a broad question, but if you can talk about the economy, we'll give you 30 more seconds.
Okay. For the economy? Oh. The one thing that I think is important is when you take a look at our gas prices, we have got to get our energy independence back on track. We've got to start growing for our oil here in the United States. That will go ahead and fuel other parts of our economy. That will in itself bring gas prices down. That will put people back to work. When people go back to work and they spend more money, that will bring luxury prices down, and it will be a cyclical effect. So I think that the most important thing right now is that we gain that energy independence. I also think it's time that we stop spending money that we don't have. The fact that we are adding to the national debt without trying to curb in spending. Anybody that has any kind of a background in finance, you know that you can't spend more money than you have in the piggy bank. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey on a personal level, and I think that you could take Dave Ramsey and you can apply a lot of his principles at the federal level, and this economy would be in a lot better shape.
Okay, thank you. And that's not ready to go, Randy. Since I can repeat the question if you like, or Paul can actually, it's his question.
really like eating time. That's what I'm looking for. But friends, let me just tell you, our country is broke. What is needed to fix our economy from the U.S. Congress is simple. Pass a bill, budget bill, on time, in regular order, with full transparency, and don't deficit spend. It's been 20 years since the U.S. Congress has balanced a budget. It's been 30 years, going on 30 years since the Congress has passed a budget bill on time in regular order. So what do? They take last year's garbage and they push it into next year's spending. That's a problem. $30 trillion in debt. Make no mistake, this is Biden's economy. On day one when he took office, he, and he alone, put us on a trajectory. And it was an ill-fated trajectory. It's something that's sinking the ship of the American people. There's no way in 18 months that one person with a stroke of a pen and bad policies should make us go from a robust, booming economy to where we are today. There's no way that happened. But it happens because the U.S. Congress has ceded its authority of the power of the purse to the federal agencies and to the federal government vis-a-vis the President of the United States, the executive branch. And that's a problem. We've got to take back the power of the purse. Balance the budget. Give the confidence to the American people that we won't deficit spend. We have $4 trillion in tax revenue in this budget. The president's budget is $6 trillion. We will be at $32 trillion in debt. We're facing a cliff that we cannot recover from. It's immoral to pass that on to the next generation. When I go to Congress, I will balance the budget. I will fight for regular order. I will make sure that the leadership of the U.S. Congress follows the Constitution to make sure that we spend the people's money in the way in which it was intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Three of your candidates for Arizona's U.S. Congressional District number 9, Adam Morgan, Randy Cutts, and Dr. Sandra Dowling. And we're going to take a short break for the radio broadcast. And I want to remind people that Cub Scout and Boy Scout Troop number 85 are selling water in the lobby for $1 a bottle. And coming up next, we will have State Representative District 30 candidates, Leo Piasucci, John Gillette, William Hatch, Donna McCoy, and Noel Rosen. And
That's William Hart.
I'm sorry, William Hart. Okay.
They'll call us on it if we don't correct.
It's a long way away from that paper for me right now. So, all right, and Mary Ann Salem regrettably could not make it because of a health issue. Okay, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with your 2022 candidates forum.
This is Havasu Online TV, and we'd like to thank you again for joining us for the 2022 Candidate Forum. Right now they're on a radio station break currently. About a minute out from it was the District 30 representatives will be coming up. We again want to thank you for joining us, and a huge shout out to the Bradley Automotive Group, Bradley Ford, Bradley Chevy, Bradley Collision Center, and Riverview Automotive for helping sponsor the stream today to bring you the candidate forums so where you can hear them live and also be watching our feed as we are going to turn this over to our tech department, and they'll be able to take out each candidates and questions so you can go back and view them as you like. Again, as we're about to get to it, thank you for joining us for the 2022 Candidate Forum, live from Lake Havasu High School.
You good? All right. All right, welcome back to the 2022 Candidates Forum. And we got a little shift in the order. State Senator Sonny Borelli. He's also the majority whip in the state Senate, has 4 minutes, and he's going to address the audience.
Thanks very much for being here. You know, I'm running for my last term in the Senate. We have term limits here in Arizona, so this is my last term. I have some souvenir signs out there outside you can take as a souvenir keepsake. I'd like to get them all out of my garage. It'd be great. I'm going to do a legislative update, but before I do that, I have a public service announcement, okay? This is from Jill Biden. She says, for God's sakes, please stop. He thinks his name is Brandon now. Sorry, Brandon.
It's been a rough year.
You know, we've had some criticism that we had unprecedented spending in the state. Well, we did. We had some unprecedented spending to finally fix things in the state of Arizona. We put $1 billion towards roads and infrastructure this year. We put $500 million for border security. Yes, finishing the wall, finish the fence, whatever you want to call it, for border security, which is also counter drug operations. We gave our DPS and our correctional officers a pay raise finally after 10 years of them getting absolutely nothing. It's about time to take care of our law enforcement. We put $50 million in school safety for interoperability and STOs, or SROs, not STOs, SROs. So we're school resource officers. So school safety has been the first and foremost up front, what we wanted to do in the budget this year. Also, we put over $1 billion in K-12 spending. Over $1 billion. And some of that is backpack funding. In other words, we're funding the student, not the system. That restores parental authority. And we finally got the peace officers budget finally flush. It's no longer in debt. It's no longer upside down. We actually filled that so that way it's completely full. And so we solved that. We paid off our buildings that they hocked 20 years ago under Napolitano's administration. Billions of dollars that we hocked the state buildings. We finally paid that off. And guess what? That's a savings of $120 million in interest every year. That's a savings. So you may not remember when we got through this last cycle, actually last term, we got the Veterans Home, $25 million for Veterans Home in Mojave County. Hopefully it's going to be here in Arizona, knock wood, okay? They're doing a feasibility study. I'm really convinced it's going to be here in Lake Havasu, so I'm really happy about that. Last cycle, a year ago, we passed a bill. We got how many military retirees are in the audience? Your military pension is tax exempt from the state. So we've lowered taxes, but guess what? There's more coming, and I'll let my teammate Leo kind of hit some of those highlights when we get that chance. But once again, you know, I want to thank everybody for supporting me for the last 6 years. I've got one more term to go. God bless you all. Thank you. It's an honor to serve, improve your net, and hire a vet. Thank you very much. You know, you just heard the people up here from Congress talking about it's kind of Debbie Downer stuff, and I think we've done some really great things in the state legislature, and maybe Congress should look at us and see how we're getting it done. So thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Sonny. And Brandon is handing out the numbers right now so we can get an order for who's going to go first. We have 4 people here, 4 candidates: Leo Biasucci, John Gillette, Donna McCoy, and Noel Rosen. And who got number 1? John Gillette, you're going to go first. Brandon, would you like me to do the question? All right. First question for John Gillette and the entire field. What would your top priorities be as the legislature puts together the state budget?
Let's go ahead and allow the introductions first. That's something we just skipped over. Also being told I can just say closer to the mic. So we'll do 1-minute introductions and then we'll start with that first question. Gives you some time to think about it.
Okay, my name is John Gillette. I'm running for this office because of the overreach of government. What got me into this was basically COVID. When the schools were closed, businesses were getting closed down, I didn't sit idly by. I fought the health department. I did a FOIA request on the health department. I proved that their numbers were not correct. The health department director had a master's degree in marketing and sales and closed our businesses down, closed our schools down, and encouraged the lockdown of people in their homes. That is not the right thing. That is what got me into this race. I spent 35 years in the Army, retired as a command sergeant major. Most of you know that 1% of the U.S. population serves in the Army. Sergeant major is 0.08% of that 1%. I can get the job done. You need a sergeant major for the race. Thank you.
We'll move on to Noel Rosen.
Wow, tough act to follow. My name is Noel Rosen. I'm a patriot. I'm not a politician. I'm the founder of the Patriots of Wickenburg. And I've actually stood up to government tyranny. When they shut down the town of Wickenburg 2 years ago with the illegal and unconstitutional mandates, I actually pushed back along with the rest of our town. I stood up for my friends and neighbors who were business owners for their constitutional rights to actually reopen their business. And guess what? We won. We stood up to Ducey. We gave him the finger. We said, hey, we are not going to accept government tyranny on every level, on any level. So that's what I've done. I'm also a business owner. I'm a long-term Arizona resident. I was actually raised here. And I'm hoping that we can get patriots in all levels of government because we need to get our state and our country back.
Next, Donna McCoy.
Hi, my name is Donna McCoy, and if any of you don't remember me, I served on the city council here in Lake Havasu for 8 years. I worked really hard with the team of council people to get us through the aftermath of the 2008 recession. And folks, it looks like we're headed there again. I am the person with the experience that can take our state through that. We can, get through this, but you have to have experienced, qualified people. I am that individual. My reputation, my experience, it all lends to what we're doing here. And what our representatives, current representatives, need is a teammate. And I've proven myself to be that individual. So please, put me to work. Vote for Donna McCoy on August 2nd. Thank you.
Last, Leo Biasucci.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm Leo Biasucci. I'm your current state representative in the Arizona House of Representatives. I'm also the majority whip. And I just first want to say thank you all for voting for me the last 2 elections. You've put me into office because you trusted in me. You had the trust in me to do what's right and get things done for you guys. And that's exactly what I've done. And I think it's important that if you re-elect somebody, they have to prove that they have done the job that you've asked them to do. And a few things that I've done that I think you all appreciate, after 20 years, I secured the funding to get Highway 95 repaved completely for the first time in 20 years. It's a huge win. Second, I made Arizona a Second Amendment sanctuary state. It is a huge win. And we're seeing why that's important now. We've also cut taxes. Arizona is now a 2.5% flat income tax state because of what we've done as a legislature. We've cut debt. We've saved our water, we've cut our taxes, and we protected your rights. That's something that I ran on when I first ran 4 years ago, and I just want to say thank you for Senator Borelli, Representative Cobb. We have one heck of a team these last 4 years, and we're going to continue that in this next election. Thank you all so much. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, here's the first question. I asked it once, but I'll ask it again. John Gillette, what would your top priorities be as the legislature puts together the state budget?
Well, right now, my top priority would be water. We need water infrastructure, and I have some ideas on how to gain that financing we need for the water. I'd also like to see a different direction in the schools. Leo and Sonny and their teams have put together a great budget for the schools. They've given them the money they need, but use of that money, I'm hoping will change with the backpack and school choice. But right now, there's a school, Mesa High, has 5 vice principals and 1 principal with a salary of over $1.5 million in administration. We rank 47th in the state, or in the nation. 47th. We're spending a ton of money in schools. Now, the backpack bill is what I initially ran on, school choice. I want to see that funded all the way so every school has to compete with each other. That will eliminate the critical race theory. That will eliminate a lot of the nonsense that's going on in the schools. And the better schools will get the money. I want to see that continue. The infrastructure for water, as the other group said, that's a federal issue, but there are a ton of state issues that we can do with water. One is we can fight the Sierra Club, get them out of our water business, and let the state manage it. Let cities manage the water how they need to manage. Let the state water be managed, and we need money to do that, and I would carve that out in the budget.
All right, thank you. Next is candidate Noel Rosen.
Well, one of the things that I would actually do is fund the border defense plan that Brian Mache, when he ran for governor, he's a Lake Havasu resident. He ran for governor, and he had one hell of a damn great border plan. That's what I would really want to fund, because we have to get our country back. We're being invaded. I'm not going to call them illegal immigration. I'm not going to call them illegal immigration. We are being invaded. We need to send the full weight of the Arizona and Air National Guard, along with the unorganized militia, to the southern border to protect that border while it is being finished. That is one of the things that I really want to fund. Another thing is election integrity. We didn't have it. We lost our election. Okay, the legislature sine die before that happened. I want to see that happen. No more machines. One day, one vote. Get rid of all the mail-in ballots. You know, get rid of early voting. I want it all. I want it all. We need to have our elections back. And I helped draft election integrity legislation with Walt Blackman. I'm going to damn well fight to get it done. And another thing that I hope to do is actually, I know this could be budgeted, but we actually have to get rid of Common Core in the schools. We need to take our schools back and put God and traditional learning back in the schools, and that's what I'm going to work for.
Okay, Dr. McCoy, you need the question re-asked.
Okay. So I work for you, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to you and say, what's the most important thing? We all know we have a list of things that need to be done, and we all feel the same way. Water is always first, but I really want to take care of our border also. The reason for that is that truckload of 53 people that were just found dead. I don't care what you call them, they are people, lives that ended because of the current administration that we have right now, not taking care of our border. And I know that Sonny and Leo have worked really, really hard to get legislation so that we can start the wall, and I applaud them for that. We want to get the wall up. We need to definitely fund, not defund, but fund all of our law enforcement officers. And we have got to get people in the office of Attorney General that will go after the people that are guilty and not let them loose, not say this isn't my aspect. These are things we need to take care of. Water is definitely huge. We all feel that. We're all worried about that. And that's something that will come because we've got great people like Leo and Sunny and Regina that have been working on this. And I want to fill that spot so that I can work with them on all the issues that need to be taken care of. Thank you.
State Representative Leo Biasucci.
Thank you. And so, I've been fortunate enough to be part of 4 budgets and go through the process. And I'm going to give you an example of how things work down in the legislature and why it's important to have a fighter down there who's going to fight for you guys here in rural Arizona. So a perfect example is Highway 95. So we all know it's been 20 years since that's been properly funded. And when I went to the budget negotiations, they come and they ask me what I want. And that was my #1 ask when I was elected. And now I'll tell you what happens. So the great state of Maricopa, as you all know, exists. And this means you have a lot of people who represent the great state of Maricopa, and they could care less about rural Arizona, including us. So when you don't have a fighter, nothing gets done for us out here. And so when I went in that budget negotiations and I said, I want $46 million to repave Highway 95, they looked at me and said, that's not going to happen. So I came home, I took pictures of Highway 95 in my suit, like that weird guy in the dead of summer, and I brought it back to the legislature and I said, this is the reality. None of you guys come down to rural Arizona, you have no idea what our wants and needs are. Lo and behold, that bill passed and we got the funding for the highway. But that's what's needed. You need fighters who understand what it is that local constituents want, what the rural Arizona wants. If you don't have people in there that don't understand that, and I'm fortunate enough to be born and raised here in Lake Havasu, I understand the wants and needs of our district. So when it comes time for budget negotiations, I'm always going to fight to make sure we get the money that we deserve out here in rural Arizona. We are just as important as Maricopa County, period. And you need a fighter that's going to continue to get things done. And that's what I'll continue to do moving forward as your elected representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Bowers will ask the next round of, ask the question for the next round.
And the next question will start with Noel Rosen. With the U.S. Supreme Court's reversal of Roe v. Wade allowing individual states to legislate abortion, what should Arizona's approach to legislation be?
Real polarizing issue. I really think that this should go to the people to decide on it, not government, okay? You know, I've watched this bill called SB 1164, okay? And this bill, the legislature, was actually a bill that allowed for abortion up to 15 weeks. And I will tell you that many Republicans in the legislature voted on it. I saw it. They voted to approve it. That's hypocrisy. There's a lot of these people that say that they're pro-life, but they're hypocritical on the issue. Okay, you're either pro-life or you're not. Now, constitutionally, I really think this should go to the people to decide, not government. Do you really want government to decide on this issue? Would you, the people who have the power under the Constitution, be allowed to decide? I think it should be the people that decide the issue.
And then we'll move on down the line with Donna McCoy.
I absolutely agree. The last thing we want is this administration telling us what to do anymore, right? But every single life is valuable. No matter what color your skin is, no matter what stage of life you say this is when life starts, every life is important. And so we always need to protect life. That's the most valuable thing that we can do for everybody. And it's one of those things that, yes, right now, you know, if it stands the way it goes, then we are in Arizona going to be so blessed not to have to deal with this. But there's going to be lawsuits, we know that. There's going to be a lot of information coming out, and we're going to have to take that a step at a time. I agree, it's going to come down to the voters, and I know that in our area, it'll be shut down, as it should be. But I just, you know, we just got to continue to stay in there and fight and stay strong, but keep the information and be sure that we put qualified people in the office to run and to continue to listen to our constituents out there. Thank you.
As soon as we're ready with the clock, we'll have Leo Biasucci. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you, guys. This one's pretty easy for me. I believe in protecting the life of the born and unborn, period. You know, you have laws in place right now in the state of Arizona that actually protects the unborn. And so, like what was spoken earlier, that was stated that we passed a bill this year called the Heartbeat Bill. It was our version of that bill. And we did that before the ruling from the Supreme Court. Because of the ruling, which was the right call, that was unconstitutional for the federal government to be deciding what they were deciding. It should be down to the states. But because of their ruling, it actually reverts back to our original law here in Arizona. And that is that abortion is illegal unless there's a medical emergency or rape is involved. And that's something I support. I am pro-life. I believe that we must protect our born and unborn, period. And so I'm proud that I voted for the Heartbeat Bill, and I'm proud that the Supreme Court reversed that ruling, because that was not their job. It should always be up to the states, and I'm proud where Arizona stands. Thank you.
Still waiting on the clock.
Okay, I think we're good. Go ahead, John Gillette.
I agree. The Supreme Court ruled on Roe v. Wade on an issue that is not in the Constitution. It was taken away from federal power and given back to the state. I am 100% pro-life, and I believe the unborn, as Leo said, should be protected. My worry in this, the Heartbeat Bill is good. We're strong on the 10th Amendment, but the 9th Amendment guarantees the right to individual citizens, the right to make their own decision in something that's not enumerated in the Constitution. I think we need, if this is what the people want, we need to put this in the Arizona Constitution, and that 9th Amendment right will be protected. What I'm thinking is the slippery slope, assisted suicide. Do we want the government making a decision on that? And that's, I think, where the left will attack it. But the Heartbeat Bill, I 100% support. I'm 100% pro-life, and I'm glad it's out of the government's hands. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Our next question for the next round, we'll start with Donna McCoy. How do you feel the public schools in the district you are representing are doing academically? How will you ensure that these schools are supported in the way they need to be, given the higher costs of operating a school outside of the valley? Donna McCoy.
Well, you know, we are so fortunate to be able right here in Lake Havasu to have great schools. And so that's very fortunate, but it's because we've worked really hard and worked with our teachers and supported our teachers. I think that the whole process of the money following the student is going to be the answer to making sure that we get good education in the different aspects of the area. Because if you're not getting a good teacher and the monies that the parents have the right to take the child wherever they feel they're getting the best education, the other schools are going to follow suit or they're going to fold up. So we have to be able to continue to do that. Legislation is great. I think that we need to cut money from the top, which is the 5 or 6 administrators that work for every school, and get the money into the schools. And one of the most important things, we have a daughter who's a teacher in California, is that the class sizes have got to be made smaller. They're so big that the teacher cannot reach all of the students during the time that's allowed. So cutting down the classes, cutting the money from the top, and making sure that the parents have the right to take the child where they want, and the money goes with them, I think would be a key answer for that. Thank you.
And thank you. Leo, be seat to you. Do you need the question reread?
Yep. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, let's wait for the clock. A couple more seconds. And go ahead.
All right, thank you guys. And I agree with Donna. I think that our schools here are doing a fantastic job, and I think that they're doing extremely well, and they do it for less money than a lot of the Phoenix schools. For example, Phoenix Unified School District pays $2,000 or $3,000, more than we do here. They get $3,000 more than we do here in Lake Havasu, yet we outperform them. So is money always the answer? No. We got to make sure that our schools are funded properly, but we have to make sure that the program and the curriculum is working. And it is here. We're doing a great job of that. And I do agree with the fact that, look, we passed ESAs, full expansion of ESAs in the state of Arizona this budget cycle, which means the funding follows the student. And I think this is going to be a win-win for everybody, because not every child learns in the same environment. They don't excel in the same area. They could be homeschooled and excel. They could be private school, charter school, public. This fighting that we have between public schools and private and charters needs to go away. It's what is best for the student, period. And I'm always going to make sure that the child is funded no matter what environment that they're in. And so I'm proud that we're putting more money into all areas of education. And I've supported that in the budget, I've supported that with bills, and I'll continue to support that to make sure that every child is receiving the education that they deserve. Thank you.
Our next candidate is John Gillette. Do you need the question reread? Okay. We're almost there. Still waiting on the clock. Yes, Kathy Tibbett from the chamber doing really good. All right. We're ready.
I agree with Leo, I agree with Sonny. We have good schools here, but the charter schools, if you didn't know this, they're not tuition based, but they don't get funded at the same level as the public schools. For example, the charter schools don't get the backup money or the matching funds, as it's called, for transportation. Most of the charter schools have limited their transportation, limited their busing, therefore limiting the number of students that they can get. We need equal funding for all the schools with the choice program to work. If they have the equal funding, the school that has the best curriculum, the best teachers, the smallest class size will rise to the top. Everyone's heard of McGraw-Hill, correct? You know who McGraw-Hill? They make the school books. Who owns McGraw-Hill now? The Philadelphia 76ers. I don't want a basketball team owning the books that go to my children. I don't want it owning the website that my children read in school. That curriculum needs to be posted. It needs to be online. If schools need a little additional funds to do that, to get that online, so every parent, every grandparent, everybody can see what our children are being taught. It's a must. Equal funding and get the curriculum online. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Noel Rosen, we're waiting for the clock again. We're waiting for it to wind down first. Do you need the question reread then?
No.
Okay. All right, we're almost there. Kathy's doing a great job. All right, Noel Rosen, go ahead.
Well, first of all, you know, I think in regards to the schools, I think it comes down to parental choice. It's great to have the voucher program, but I will tell you, half the state budget is being put into education, okay? I'd like to know where the money is going, because it's all going, it seems, to the administration. It's insane that we have schools that have, what, 5 or 6 vice principals? That's ridiculous. The administrators, I think, need to take a little pay cut, and I think we should be paying the good teachers, not the bad ones, but the good ones, more money. Okay? I don't think it should all go to the administration. The administration, I gotta tell you, I come from a rural area, and I gotta tell you honestly that the school in Wickenburg was getting $1 million to teach the CRT and all this other garbage, all the lefty garbage. I don't want that in the schools. I do think that these parents should have a choice on where their kids go to school, and that's why we have the ESAs. Let's follow the backpack. I like it. If they want to go to a public school, they can. If they want to go to a charter school, they can. If they want to go to private school or homeschooling, absolutely. But I think we need to cut the budget. I mean, we're paying what? 50% of the budget is going to education, and we're almost last in the nation? It's terrible. We need to cut the fat people, but we also need to pay the good teachers more and keep them retained. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll on to the next question. Brent, we'll start with Leo Biasucci.
And this is our last question for this group. Into the mic. Okay. We're going to ask a similar two-part question that we asked our congressional candidates. Do you believe the 2020 presidential election results were legitimate? And what are your views on the security of Arizona's elections?
Thank you. So I've been fortunate enough to be on 3 separate panels regarding our elections, and it's been extremely obvious that we have taken our elections for granted in the state and in the country. We saw so many discrepancies, whether it was ballots being approved without a signature at all. You had chain of custody that was completely ignored. You had mail-in ballots that were approved to be sent to everybody without legislative approval, which is how it should be done. You had a situation where all these laws were broken, and the problem is nothing changes until people are put in jail, period. And that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. You know, the men and women in uniform risk their lives for this country. They risk their lives for the freedoms we have in this country, voting being one of the biggest freedoms that we have. To think that we just turn a blind eye to all these problems frustrates me. And there's not a lot we can do at the legislature in regards to overturning an election, but what we can do is see what was wrong and we can fix it. And that's exactly what we did this legislative session. On the ballot this November, which we passed in the legislature, is now requiring voter ID for all elections. Doesn't matter how you vote, period. Show your signature. What we also did is we said, look, if you have a mail-in ballot, oh, that's quick. I'll wrap up with this. It's our job to make sure that our elections are free and fair and secure. And I'm happy to say that I've been fighting for that and changing laws to make sure that they never cheat again. And you guys, I hope you do the same and get out and vote and win back this country.
Looks like we're good, so on to John Gillette.
Okay, this is a tough follow-up from Leo since he's been working this thing from the start, but I will say I 100% agree that there was fraud. Why would I say that? Have you ever seen a company, a private company, i.e. Facebook, place drop boxes all over the United States? What business does a private company have in our elections? Legally, none. You see the Pennsylvania, if anybody's watching this really closely, the Pennsylvania election chief was recently arrested for fraud. And who here has seen 2,000 Mules? Metadata, you remember Edward Snowden, who's now living in Russia because our country wants to prosecute him? That's exactly what he was talking about. That metadata, they're still following that metadata. Those cell phones that were being watched and going to ballot box. I know when I vote one time. I put it in the thing, I drive away. Done. I don't go and vote several hundred times. I don't put more than one ballot in the box. We have to stop third party or non-governmental agencies from interfering in our election. Has to be a U.S. citizen, have to have an ID, have to be a resident where you're voting. None of this proxy voting in other states. We got to stop that and clean that up as a bare minimum. Thank you.
Move on to Noel Rosen.
Let me ask all of you, show of hands, how many people here in this audience believe the election was stolen? Raise your hands, it's okay. There's my answer right there. I agree with you. It was stolen. Now on to election integrity. The legislature had a job and they didn't do it. We wanted 2289. We didn't get it. In fact, the Senate killed it. HB 2571, which I worked with Representative Walt Blackman, which was one day, one vote, getting rid of the machines, getting rid of the mail-in voting. We had the absentee balloting system, getting rid of the machines, hand counting at the precincts. That's what a lot of the voters wanted, and they didn't get it. Okay? But I will tell you this, I am going to continue fighting for election integrity. Because you gotta be an utter fool to believe that a guy sitting in his basement won all those votes. I gotta tell you, I think we were screwed, and I think our government has screwed us. It's time to get our elections back, and I will fight to make sure that happens. Because I am gonna continue to fight for the bill that I actually wanted to see passed. Because the voters deserve an honest and fair election, and I'm gonna fight for it. That's all I gotta say.
In just one moment, we'll move on to Donna McCoy.
remember the morning I woke up on 9/11 and I just was sick. It just was horrible. And the same thing with the election. I went to bed that night so happy that we were going to have 4 more years of hope and better, and our country was going to be okay. And I woke up the next morning and I was just devastated. There's just no words. And all I could do was watch the news constantly to see if somehow they had made a mistake. And when all the information that Sunny and Leo uncovered during those first few months, it was absolutely amazing. I still couldn't believe in the United States of America this was happening. I don't ever want that to happen to our grandkids and our great-grandkids, to ever have to experience that and feel that. And thank God these guys have worked so hard to bring that to light. Because believe me, it's not been easy. They've taken a lot of crap from so many. And and they fought the fight for us. And I praise them so much for what they've done. Yes, it was taken away. Yes, there was fraud. And they're going to do it, and with the leadership that they have and the others, I want to be a part of never allowing that to happen to our country again. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And those are your candidates for Legislative District 30. We're going to move on to the commercial break. We're going to take a 4-minute commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have Mayor Cal Sheehy addressing the audience. He has a special message. And then we have incumbents Michelle Lynn, Jim Dolan, and Jenny Koch, along with Morgan Braden, Mark Curry, and David Diaz, running for Lake Havasu City Council. Also want to mention our radio sponsors again, including samsguns.com, GDK LLC, Bradley Auto Group Family Dealerships.
All right, this is Drake fitting in with Havasu Online TV. We want to thank you for joining us for the 2022 Candidate Forum here in Lake Havasu City. That was the District 30 representatives there, and as you heard from Paul Lavoie, we'll be bringing the other candidates up. We do apologize we don't have the names programmed in, as we did not get a itinerary for how the lineup was going to be done. But next up will be Mayor Kalashi. So again, take a quick break, grab a quick bite to eat, and thank you again for joining us for the 2022 Candidate Forum here from Lake Havasu High School. Okay, and we're coming back with the 2022 Candidate Forum. We're going to have a quick moment.
Mic on? Okay, there we
All right, we'll turn over to Paul Avoy.
All right, welcome back to tonight's Candidates Forum from the Performing Arts Center at Lake Havasu High School. We have our 6 candidates for City Council already. I think they've already drawn their order, but first, Mayor Cal Sheehy, the incumbent, is going to address the audience. He has 4 minutes. Mayor Sheehy.
Good evening, and thank you for being here this evening, and a big thank you to the Lake Havasu Area Chamber of Commerce, Today's News Herald, and KNTR for hosting this forum. My name is Cal Sheehy, and I'm finishing my first term as mayor, and I'm seeking a second term. I'm a longtime Lake Havasu City resident and a graduate of Lake Havasu High School. I have a bachelor's degree in business marketing and a master's in business administration. I'm the vice president and general manager of the London Bridge Resort. I started at the resort as a housekeeper back in high school, and I've worked in most capacities at the resort. Then in the early 2000s, the resort expanded and had resorts around the country. I relocated with the company to the East Coast to run the East Coast operations for a couple of years. I was based in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I was responsible for properties in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, Branson, Missouri, and Daytona Beach, Florida. I assumed my current leadership role at London Bridge Resort in 2004. It's been an honor serving you and the citizens of Lake Havasu City for the past 4 years. Together, we have accomplished many great things to make the Lake Havasu City of tomorrow even better than it already is today. Each year, we've passed a balanced budget that did not include any debt financing or tax increases. We've been able to keep the property tax levy the same all 4 years, while still making investments in public safety, infrastructure, and quality of life. We've identified a location for a secondary redundant freshwater well to ensure our citizens always have access to our water entitlements, and also for allowing water infrastructure to be taken offline for maintenance while providing fresh water service to our residents. We are also working on redundant wastewater services as well. We address staffing challenges by adopting the positional analysis that ensures that we have the best and brightest team members working together to serve our citizens in public safety, parks and recreation, public works, development services, administration, customer service, and more. This long-term investment will reduce overall costs to the taxpayers related to turnover, training, and the like. We have worked to invest in a new courthouse that will enable us to provide court service to our citizens that find themselves in a difficult position. It'll be the most efficient way to do so. We'll be able to replicate the successes we've had with the Veterans Treatment Court with other specialty courts. And this will allow the citizens that find themselves in a hard spot to get the services that they need to become contributing citizens of our great community. We have worked with broadband providers with the goal of finding alternative choices for our citizens that will increase competition and lower costs. Our efforts yielded an announcement from Allo Communications to invest $50 million in private money to bring fiber to Lake Havasu City. This will help increase service choices and also decrease costs for our citizens. Lake Havasu City will have the fastest internet service in the state of Arizona. I will continue to champion and lead an open, transparent, and official local government. I will focus on housing solutions, water and water futures for our community, managed growth, code enforcement, and quality jobs. I appreciate the support that I have received from the community, and I look forward to continuing to serve each of you for another term. Please vote for me, Cal Sheehy, for mayor on August 2nd, 2022. To learn more about me, you can go to calsheehy.com. And thank you again for being here this evening and for listening to me and allowing me to share a little bit of my story with you. Thank you.
And we have our 6 candidates for City Council all up on stage. And they've chosen, they picked the numbers out of the basket, and Mark Curry drew the pick for the first question to lead off. And we'll do, introductions first. Thank you, Brandon. Is that 60 seconds?
1 minute introduction.
You have a 1 minute introduction starting with Mark Curry.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Curry. Longtime citizen of Havasu. Came back in '83 after serving 6 years in the Air Force, and my career took me around the world. And I knew I wanted to retire here someday, so the last company I worked with, when the West region opened up, I took the job and fulfilled my commitment.
And now my wife and I own a boat dealership here in town. A lot of you have been there. I'm a team player. We've had a good city council. I watch the meetings and go to the meetings like you. I watch them online. We've got a good city council. I do not believe in term. I do believe in term limits. 4 years is what you got out of me. If I can't make some positive changes in 4 years, I shouldn't have gotten the job in the first place. And I'm hopeful that when you see that I can do a good job, that some of you will step up and run the next time. A lot of people have ideas. We got a lot of great people in here. We need to bring those ideas to the city council, be part of it, and just keep Havasu the great town that it is now.
You're up next.
Thank you. I thank you for all coming and listening to us tonight and giving you our reasons why we should vote for us for city council. I been coming to Lake Havasu for 43 years. I made my first trip here in 1979. My parents built a house here and bought a lot, built a house here in 1991. My girlfriend Trudy and I bought a house here in about 10 years ago, our first home here, and now I retired from the state of California, and we've been living here now full-time for the last 5 years. I want to affect the positive direction of our community, and I think I could do that with my experience, my business acumen, and my knowledge of finance, my knowledge of how to be a problem solver and an idea person. I was a assistant vice president for a $19 billion a year global manufacturing company. Large customers, I did contracts with them worth millions of dollars. I managed over 150 people at one time. So I know how to do that. I know how to affect positive change. And I know how to be an effective, positive citizen of the citizens of the city that I live in. When I lived in Anaheim, California for 28 years, it's a city of 325,000 people. I was awarded the Citizen of the Year after being nominated by the chief of police for my involvement with getting gangs off the streets, graffiti abatement, working with the historical downtown Anaheim neighborhood district and the Parks and Recreation. So I want to bring that same drive, that same positivity to Lake Havasu. I'm a current planning and zoning commissioner, and I really appreciate your vote on August 2nd.
All right. Morgan Braden.
Yeah, Morgan Braden here. Real quickly, I came from Albuquerque, New Mexico, where my primary job was I was a paramedic for 38 years. Started out with the fire department until I got injured on a fire scene, then I spent 23 years in the back of an ambulance. I also owned a hot air balloon business. It was a hot air balloon ride business and a repair business, and I retired from all of that in 2014. That's when I moved here to Lake Havasu 8 years ago. Turned the balloon business over to my two sons, where they wanted to run it anyway, and I moved here and wasn't old enough to retire, so I spent 8 years selling boats, but I did retire from that last September. Now I am retired. The reason I'm running for city council, I want to bring the voice of the citizens to the city council. I've talked to a lot of people in this town, and they don't feel their voice is being heard. I don't own a huge business or anything like that. I'm just retired, and I want to bring some common sense to the spending here in Lake Havasu. And I, of course, will appreciate your vote come August the 2nd, morganbraden.com. My phone number's on there. Call me if you have any questions.
Next we have, incumbent Jim Dolan and Vice President. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Jim Dolan. My bad. Jim Dolan, go ahead.
Don't associate me with that guy.
Yeah, right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Dolan, and I'm your current Vice Mayor. I'm running for my second term and last term on council. I am a business owner. My wife and I own Campbell Cove One Stop, which is a gas station around industrial. I'm very proud to say I was born and raised here in Lake Havasu City, and I actually graduated here from Lake Havasu High School. After graduating in '95, I went and traveled for 3 years in the International Performing Arts Group of people, where I actually met my wife, who's from Denmark, and we lived in Denmark for 5 years. So in '08, we moved back here to Lake Havasu, and in '05, we've been here ever since. I'm very active here in the community. I think it's very important to be involved. I'm past president of many clubs, Rotary, Havasu, Hospice of Havasu, Havasu Balloon Festival and Fair. I'm also a commercial balloon pilot as well. I think that the most important thing is our city needs strong leadership, and we need people that can make tough decisions. And those tough decisions need to be based on what's best for the entire community and not just our group of people that we get our influence from. So every decision we make has to be for everybody. So we have a great community, and I just want to thank you guys and vote for Jim Dolan.
Next we have incumbent Councilmember Jenny Koch.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Koch, and I'm one of your current council members seeking re-election this year. My husband and I relocated to Lake Havasu City 21 years ago from Nebraska. For the first many years of my career here, I spent my time working for the Chamber of Commerce, working with many of our businesses here in Lake Havasu. 6 years ago, I was recruited by Havasu Regional Medical Center, and my current position there is to market our community hospital to potential physicians to get them to practice here in our community. Within the past year, I was also asked to take on rewards, recognition, and resilience with our employees at Havasu Regional after the trying last 2 years that we've had. Throughout my years here in Lake Havasu City, I volunteered in numerous organizations and clubs. Currently, I'm a member of our Lake Havasu Kiwanis Club, Tri-City Council, and I also serve as one of the council liaisons to our Havasu Youth Advisory Council. During my time on the council, I've also served 2 years as vice mayor. We've had a lot of wins in the last few years for our Lake Havasu citizens. I look for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you so much.
All right. And a 60-second introduction from incumbent Councilmember Michelle Lynn.
Hi, thank you for inviting me today. If you don't know me, I'm Michelle Lynn, and my husband Wayne and I moved here 22 years ago from Duluth, Minnesota. We have 5 children here, and we own Lynn's Little China, where we employ over 30 employees right now. My husband and I are really deeply involved in this community. We serve through our church at Calvary. We volunteer with the Blue Dress, the K-12 Foundation, and many other organizations and nonprofits. I sit on a lot of boards, and right now my current passion is opening up the Resource Center with the Clothes Closet in United Way. I am aware of the challenges our city is I am aware of the many challenges that our city is facing right now, including the housing, rental crisis, water shortages, and infrastructure. And all these things directly impact myself and all of you that are in this room. I want you to know that I am an open book and that I have the best interest of the majority of the people that are making decisions with full integrity. And I want to thank you for having me here today.
All right, we'll start the first round of the first question in the first round, and I'll turn it over to Brandon Bowers.
Thank you, and as a reminder, each question will get a 90-second answer from each candidate. We do ask that when the bell rings, you try to wrap it up. We won't be too much of a whip cracker on that, but we will ask for fairness and to keep on time, that everybody kind of sticks within that time limit. If we have to get aggressive, I'll send Paul over there. First question goes to Mark Curry. What is the city's role in the workforce housing shortage, and what solutions, if any, would you have for addressing it?
This comes up every time I speak with some Nancy's here somewhere. We have a problem. It's a 2-part problem. Part 1 is we created a generation of folks that maybe shouldn't live here. It's expensive. We're a resort community. I met some folks at over dinner one night, and she said, I live here and I have a home in Palm Springs. Both my children live in Fresno. They can't afford to live here. Pay scales at some of our restaurants. We've been doing a lot of eating out, and I've been talking to managers about how they pay their folks. The ones that have full-time employees that are homeowners, they're getting paid. They're not workforce. They're getting paid a great wage. Working at McDonald's or In-N-Out used to be a first job, so you learned what working was about. When we started giving everybody $15 an hour, it became a career choice. So how do you control it? As a business owner, I control how many hours you get, because I have to look after my bottom line. A lot of the folks that they need to go get a second $15 an hour job to live here. I have a niece that has 3 jobs. She and her family want to live here. Her husband, they want to live here. They've earned the right. They're great American kids. We need apartment houses. We need apartment houses. We need good quality apartment houses. We don't need pools. We need a good quality apartment houses, affordable apartment houses. $900 to $1,000 a month seems to be the number that folks keep giving me. you can't qualify, there's no homes for sale. And to qualify for a home in this town, it's expensive. A lot of the people we're talking about that are getting the $15 an hour, they aren't going to qualify to buy a home.
Time, please.
We need rental properties, we need apartment houses. That will address a big part of the problem.
Okay, we're ready for an answer from David Diaz.
Thank you for the question. So, it's a supply and demand. We don't have a lot of rental homes here lately because we have the Airbnb problem that hopefully is going to get fixed if Governor Ducey signs the bill that is now on his desk. But 6 years ago, we had good control of that, and now it's just been blown up because we don't have any local jurisdiction. But it's a supply and demand. So I'm in big favor of what's going to happen out in Havasu Heights area. It's about 10, 15 minutes away. It's called DL Ranch. About 1,000 homes, stick homes built on a foundation. Will own the land. They have their own infrastructure that just got approved by the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. They have their own huge aquifers, so they will not be using Lake Havasu water. And that is a great entry-level home. They'll have special financing for them. It'll be priced right. It's for people, as Mark was saying, that want to start a family and have a first home type of a situation. They'll be able to drive 10 minutes away. And a lot of you people come from other states, haven't been born and raised here in Lake Havasu. You know they're driving 10 minutes or 15 minutes to go home after work is a piece of cake. Because I came from the Los Angeles area and it takes 45 minutes to go 3 miles. Right? So that is, and we're working with the school district to actually transport their children to the schools. So that'll be another big plus. And it'll be homes that people can be proud of to raise a family in. But it's a supply and demand issue, and I will work with the city council and the other members to work with builders and so forth to build some other types of housing also, but it's all about supply and demand. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no question we have a workforce housing problem here in Lake Havasu. Just an example, when I was getting my nominating petitions, I was going door to door, knocking on doors. And I talked to a gentleman that works for our fire department. He was 24 years old, just started with the fire department within the last year and a half, has a wife and a 6-month-old baby. Now he lives with his mother-in-law in town because he can't afford to live here. Most of his friends that are in the same situation live in either Kingman or Bullhead because it's cheaper to live there. So we do have a problem with, and he works full-time, he's not a part-time fireman. So we do have a problem with workforce housing. And we need to do something about it. What can the council do? We can do proper zoning. So we make sure the areas in town that are zoned properly for multifamily housing is done properly. Make sure they have the parking for that area and make sure it's well taken care of as far as zoning concerned. We also need to talk by the city. I would like to see some sort of incentives to people building these apartment complexes that owns this property. Maybe we can give them a tax break for 10 years if they promise to keep the rents below $1,000 on a 1-bedroom apartment. Maybe we can give them a break on hooking up the infrastructure in order to do this if they're willing to do that. Those are just a couple of the ideas I have, but we need to open up a frank and honest discussion about it within the city council, within the city as a general, to try to figure this out, because there's a lot of people that would like to live here, that do work here, and can't afford to.
We'll move to the other end of the table with Jim Dolan.
Ready, set. Okay. Havasu is an amazing community, and I find it impressive that we've come this far and haven't had this problem. There's a lot of people that now know Havasu is here, and they're having second homes and third homes, and you know, it's been within the last 5 years. I honestly believe what we need to do as a city is we need to utilize our PED to work with developers to get them out there to help them. And I'm not a big tax incentive to them, but I mean, there's enough of incentive. There's money to be made in these investments. We just don't have apartment complexes. We don't need condos. We don't need stuff we can sell. We need rentals. Californians not going to come here and buy a 1-year lease on a rental. We need a good rental market. The DL Ranch is an amazing opportunity, and that's what we need. We need to encourage that to come in. The other issue we have is the Airbnbs. I mean, we as a city have lost total control over that. And it's a great thing. I mean, if you're a Californian or you want to have a second home, you can rent it out in Airbnb and come here, but we have no limits on how many
We as a city can't do anything. I personally believe in small government control and local control. We need to get Airbnb control back to our cities. We are not the same as Hickey. We are not the same as Pune. We need that control back. And for our state reps that were here, please, that is something we need. Bring that. If we are true Republicans, we are for smaller government and local control. We need to get that back because we know it's good for Havasu and we don't have it right now. Thank you.
Very good. A little hard to see over there. Jenny Cook, please.
So I think the housing problem kind of coincided with about the same time that we lost control of our short-term rentals, and those properties just exploded in the community, and we were completely mystified on how we could have had that control taken away from us when we had such a great process in place. Again, as a city, I don't believe that there's a lot that we can do as far as building homes, but we can be open to all of the options continuing to address these issues that we're facing. And a lot of that comes from the support from local government for clear and transparent processes that are efficient and fair across the board for everyone coming in. Working with the county and the state departments of housing to ensure that we get the grants and the other assistance that we need for our interested builders and landowners that are looking to come to our area and invest. And then also supporting our local contractors and landowners in helping them in the process and the procedures and walking them through those and making sure that we get rid of the red tape in place so that their projects can go through and get approved and get started in a timely manner. So that's what I have to say.
Michelle, please.
I've been asked this question a lot. Having a restaurant, we have those employees, we have those servers, we have those dishwashers that are looking for housing. On a level where, as a business owner, we go out of our way and we have purchased homes and we rent homes to put our employees in. We've done that as a business to be able to recruit and retain our employees. As a city, we don't have that same option. So the only option we do have right now, because we're outgrowing our city and the housing options here because of the VRBOs, because of the Californians that came here during COVID, and that's great. It's a fair housing market. But we have no other choice but to move towards the county and work with the developers and the projects out in that area, and I fully support that, and I think that's the only direction we have left is to work with that, the county and those developers in that area. Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the second question, and we'll start with Mr. Morgan or David Diaz. With water levels continuing to drop in Lake Mead and Lake Powell, what should Lake Havasu City's first steps be in the event that it has to reduce water use? David, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. So we have to continue to do conservation. We do a great job of conservation here in Lake Havasu. I was at a city council meeting last night, and the pre-meeting, they were talking about some ideas, and one of the things was requiring possibly to look at the codes for all the any new commercial business to possibly put in drip water systems and specify low to really low water usage plants. And that's a step in the right direction, because a drip water system versus a bubbler system is pretty economical. There's not that big of a deal price differential. But we've done a really good job here at Lake Havasu. We only use about 13 to 16% annually of the water entitlements that we purchase, being forethought based on about 96,000 residents. We have purchased already those entitlements. The problem we have here at Lake Havasu is we have all these other municipalities trying to put straw in our lake and take the water from us, because they know we don't use all of our water because we manage it properly. We have aquifers in town. We do a good job of that. We visited here as a group the two big reclamation centers we have in Lake Havasu, and they do a great job. But I think we need to do is make sure that we continue to look at all different ways of piping water, of desalination plants, all the things we can work with Sunny and Leo on to help keep our water level and other people away from our water.
Thank you. Morgan Braden.
Okay, I agree with a lot of what David said. The number one step in the whole process, conservation. We're not in a bad water situation now here in Lake Havasu, but it's possible someday we could. So what we need to do now is push what the council was talking about last night with the proper irrigation systems, proper landscaping, and do our best to encourage our current citizens to be careful with their water and make sure they don't waste any. That's step one in the process. Now, step two, should we come to a situation where we do have to do something as far as pertaining to our water supply, I'm not too sure how, it's going to be hard to tell somebody you can't take a shower in the morning, if it comes to that. I don't personally think it will, but you got to look long term and try to figure out what might be done. And that's going to be a hard decision to make, a long discussion to have in order to come up with that. We need to make sure that we are proactive in maintaining our water, as David said. We got to keep the other whatever. We got to keep the other towns out of our water supply. We are on the river. We're top on the list, in my opinion, for getting that water. But we got to make sure that we quit. If it has, I'm going to recommend they shut down San Diego, they shut down Phoenix and Tucson before we have to do any major stuff here. Thank you.
Councilman Dolan? You need the question reread?
Thank you.
You need the question reread?
No, I'm not good.
Okay. Water. Got it.
Well, I am doing my part. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I yell at them all the time that I'm going to threaten to shut the water off. So I'm working on that. The biggest thing is we need to preserve and protect is what is the first step. We need to work with the state. We need to work with our federal our people and keep people from coming in here and taking our water and having developments being built where they don't have the water and they're trying to get it. So we have been working as a city very closely with the county, the state, and the federal levels. When it comes to, of course, the question being is what is Lake Havasu going to do when we get to that point? We do have plans. Basically, when we are at Tier 2 and Tier 3, we will have to start cutting back. When we get to that point, of course, one of them is, education, encouraging people how to use water less. To be honest, landscaping, we use a lot of plants. Lowe's and Home Depot sell a lot of plants they probably don't need to be selling because they die, we replace them, they die, replace them. But there are a lot of plants. We overwater here at Lake Havasu. There's a lot of conservation education we need to do. But and not having that crystal ball in front of me, if it does get to that point, it's simple. We're going to have to physically cut back. We're going to have to maybe limit certain days. I don't know. And we're not there yet, and I hope we don't get to that point. That's why we need to continue to work with our state and federal officials to make sure the water is not keeping it stolen from us. So Havasu has done really well with its water. We use less water now than we used in 1990 with a lot less population. So we need the rest of the state and other places to follow our lead. So thank you. Jim Dolan.
And thank you. Councilmember Jenny Cope.
I'm really good at listening to Kathy's direction. So we currently have 29,000 acre-feet of water that's allocated to us, and we use about 13,000 acre-feet of water. So we do very well in Lake Havasu City. That's, like Jim said, less than what we used in the 1990s, thanks to our community and the conservation that we do. Also, our use of reclaimed water. 40 million people also use the Colorado River water for their drinking water. We are right now in a Tier 1 shortage. This doesn't have immediate effects on us here in Lake Havasu because we've done such a great job with water conservation, but we do expect that there will be a Tier 2A or B in August. So we've been taking additional steps to update our conservation plan and working with other communities to update their plans as well. We do very good work in using our effluent to water our parks and golf courses, and we continue to fight off the water transfers. We've adopted resolutions to support efforts to prevent water transfers off the main stem of our system. We are working with others to ensure solid water policy is adopted while still protecting our water rights and entitlements here in Lake Havasu City. And I will continue to support the water policy to ensure that our water future is protected. In the last 4 years, we've made great investments in our redundant fresh water supply, and this will ensure that we have multiple sources to access our water entitlements. We are making great investments, and we're doing a very good job as a community. So I hope to continue that work in the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Michelle Lynn.
I think there's a couple things. We have a really good conservation water program right now. I think we need to continue to educate our people on what that looks like. We need to open that back up and really explore how we're going to do that, whether that's through our schools and our meetings. We need to constantly educate people on what that looks like. A second thing is I think we need to be a little bit more creative with our affluent water. And I talked to Doyle Wilson, who is part of our water guy here in Lake Havasu, and that's what he said. He said we need to be more creative with what we're doing with that. And the third thing is, as we're growing and we're building, we need to make sure that as we're doing that, we are not outgrowing our infrastructure. And right now, we are doing that. And we need to keep a really close eye on that so that we have enough water for the citizens that already live here.
And Mark Curry. We'll wait for the clock. We're almost there. Mark, do you need the question reread? You're good?
Yeah. All right. Our water issue is a talking point. It's something to talk about. I'm sure we have issues, but Bob McCulloch planned for 90,000 citizens here. We aren't there yet. There's a gentleman in the audience tonight that has a company, and he'll be meeting with our new governor in November. He turns fracking water in Texas into drinking water. Imagine that. We can shower, we can drink the water right now that we're putting on our golf courses. 220 jobs here in Havasu. He's already told what I consider to be the governor pro tem. I want to put the facility in Havasu. I'm not worried about water right now. We do a great job, as everybody said, of conservation. The lake's full. Sometimes it's dirty, and I think we might want to focus on that with the folks that come here and don't treat the water the way we want to treat it in our lake. We do, as somebody said, it'd be nice if we could control the water that's going out of our town. I don't know why we're pumping so much water into California, as an example. They want to do a desalination program and want us to pay for it. Let them pay for it. They got money, a little bit. I'm not as concerned about water right now as I am other things that are going on in our community. But as part of the city council, with all these folks here, I'll be right there addressing it. You all will let us know what's important at any given time.
All right, Brenda Bowers will ask the next question, and we're going to start with Morgan Brady.
Actually, Paul, you don't know it. I'm going to take the next two questions.
Okay.
A little greedy over here. But talking about money, Lake Havasu City sales tax revenues have set record highs in each of the last 2 years. How should the city handle that revenue increase?
That's the question.
That's the question.
It's going to be a two-part.
It will be a two-part, but there's another part coming up.
I'll take care of that one first. Yeah, I'm sure anybody that got the paper saw the Sunday paper last weekend where it said that we had last year $3 million extra over budget, unplanned for money come in based on that tax. Now, keep in mind, most of that increase came from the tourism department. In actuality, the rest of the city, the gross sales tax on food and boats and cars and stuff like that, that actually dropped. But we did have a large increase. Plus, the year before, we had a fairly decent increase. I don't want to waste that money. We got to properly spend that money what's best for the citizens. One of the things I'm really hot on, because now that I'm retired, I'm living on a fixed income. I want to make sure we don't raise our taxes, our water rates, our sewer rates if we don't have to our local people. There are way too many people in this town that are living on a fixed income. What I would like to do with some of that surplus, because I know we're going to have to raise our water rates and our sewer rates. There's no question about it. We've got infrastructure we've got to maintain. It's got to be going up sometime in the future. I think a better expenditure of that money would be to put it to those two departments so we can offset any increases we have to give to our retired citizens. We can also might use a little bit of it to help maintain some of our roads and do a little better job taking care of our roads. I just don't want it put into wasteful spending within the city that doesn't benefit the citizens of this city.
And we'll move down to the end of the table. Jim Dolan.
I'm watching the clock. All right.
So you make $500 more a month, but your rent goes up $700 a month. It's hard to be thrilled that you made $500 more a month. The city's in that exact situation right now. We are dealing with hyperinflation. Everything, it's a double-edged sword. I'm relieved that we are having that increase in revenue because we need it. We need it to offset the expenses. Just even putting in a air conditioner at the aquatic center, that is definitely a need. The humidity is almost destroying the aquatic center. It's a $3 million air conditioner. Well, it was like $2 million last year, but now it's $3 million. So my point is while we do have that revenue, we also have those expenses. We have a fleet of police cars. We have a fleet of fire engines that fill up on this very expensive fuel that we are all very frustrated in paying the prices on. So I'm a little hesitant, and I want to see where all that is before we rejoice and start spending that money. If there is a true extra revenue at that level, I do believe we need to reinvest it in our infrastructure, whether it's police cars, fire engines, equipment. We haven't really been the best at that in the years. Our water system is, I don't want to raise taxes either. Taxes are one thing, but we run a not-for-profit utility company, and we need to do our best to make sure that is well taken care of. Because if we don't take care of it, our rates will go up no matter what we do. So, 2 seconds, I give up. Bye.
We're ready for Jenny Koch.
So one of the biggest budget items that we deal with is our wastewater system. And the last thing any of us want is to go into your bathroom and not be able to flush your toilet or take a shower. So our water system, our wastewater system, they're very expensive. And all of the price increases, they're not immune to that. So a lot of the monies that are coming in, we're spending a lot of money making sure that the services that you as the community want are there when you need them. The amenities such as parks and all the niceties that we have in this community, they all take more money now. So yeah, we're making more money as a city, but it's costing us more, as Jim said, to run the city. The good thing is that we've passed a balanced budget. We have no new debt financing, so we're not putting the city in any debt, and we didn't raise the property taxes. So we've done all of that, and we've also been able to double our budget stabilization reserves so that we have at least 6 months in reserves. Heaven forbid something catastrophic happens. And we have that so that we can continue then to make a plan. We're investing more monies in our roads, which is a major concern of our constituents. So we're doing things with that money. We're not, as I don't feel, we're wastefully spending it, but the projects and things that we need to keep moving forward and that we need as a city, those things are costing us more money. And we as a city are not immune to that either. Thank you.
And Michelle Lynn.
Just because we have it doesn't mean we should spend it recklessly. I agree we need to be taking care of our infrastructure. We need to maintain what we already have before we start building more. That's our roads, that's our sewer, that's our water, the wells. All of these things are the things we need to take care of now before putting on to new projects, because we don't know what's down the road. We don't know what Havasu is going to look like in the next 5 years. So taking care of currently the things that we have, the infrastructure, is what we should be doing right now.
Mark Curry.
I said in on one of the city council meetings, and the topic of discussion was employment, getting folks to come here and work. But they were qualified. Matter of fact, I gave Jim props because he made a comment, are we getting qualified candidates? And the response was yes. Why aren't we getting them? And the answer was, we can't pay them enough. He said rightfully, as I agree, pay them more. And what about the people that have been doing it for 10 years? Pay them more too. The problem with that is nobody supported him at that very moment. There should have been discussion about what he said, but the conversation ended. Our police force, our fire departments, city employees that we need to hire, let's spend the money on that. We're not going to worry about the extra money still being in the coffers. If, as somebody said, you go to turn your water on, it doesn't come on because we don't have anybody to operate the plant. It's the city's money. We should spend it on city employment. We need to keep enhancing the people that run our town for us. Y'all deserve that. It's your money. He'll use his own money.
I think we're just about ready for David Diaz. Okay, now we are.
Thank you. So based on the 2020 census, Lake Havasu has 57,000 residents currently living here full-time. Based on the land mass that we own, that we have in our city limits, we'd be considered built out at 96,000 residents. So since 1978, when the city was incorporated, to right now, there's 57,000. So we're a long way to get to that ultimate build out of 96,000. But with that comes, more use of our roads, more use of our infrastructure, more pressure on different things that we have in the city to keep us living here in a beautiful resort community. So we have to be proactive instead of reactive. So one of my bullet points on my platform is well-planned infrastructure and fiscal responsibility. Yes, things are costing more money. We know that. You go to the gas station and you're spending $5 for a gallon of gasoline. So things are more expensive. So we have to relook at things. We have to budget properly and take care of all the things. Don't let it fester so it becomes an issue, and take care of the things that keep our city running smoothly. And I'll be a diligent steward of our monies, anything above or beyond that we already have, and make sure we spend it properly. I'll be your vote. You be our voice on the city council. Thank you.
I mentioned this was a two-part question. It's more of a related question for the next one. We're going to ask you to keep your answers shorter. Try to keep it about 30 seconds. I don't know how well our clock is going to handle that time with us. On your honor. But we'll start with Morgan Braden again. Wrong section. Should the city lower property tax rates during years when property valuations rise? And would you commit to doing so?
Would I commit to lowering how much you pay on property taxes? Property tax is a big thing for me. I talked about it last night at the city council. We got to take care of our seniors. We can't keep rising it. Unfortunately, everybody's property tax is going to go up just because of house values. I don't think it's going to drop back down to this level or lower again. I do think the bubble will burst and it will drop down, but I don't think we can't drop it all the way down, because it could curtail us running the city if we don't get the proper amount. We just don't need to spend any more on it.
Thank you, and we'll move on to Jim Dolan.
Lake Havasu property tax is 6.7 of your total property tax bill. 93% of that is county, the library, the school district. So I don't feel that, I don't think at our level at the city it's going to do anything to help at that level. Just mainly because it is such a, we make most of our revenue as far as off sales tax. So I don't think it would be that helpful. Like, even with the increase, if you have a $400,000 house, you probably went up $10 a year on what it is right now. So yeah. $2.85 for 100,000 valuation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And Jenny Cook, please.
I'm happy that we haven't raised our property tax levy in the last 5 years. I don't think that lowering it is going to help our citizens, in the fact that we have to cut services and we'll have to cut things that they're going to notice, and they're not things that people are going to be willing to give up. I think we cannot increase it. And we've been very diligent in not doing that, and that's been doing our part to make sure that we're keeping it consistent and we're not taking advantage.
And Michelle Lynn, please.
I'm not a fan of raising it and lowering it. I think would just take away some of the services that we need in our community with our public safety, and therefore, so I would not be a fan of lowering it, because I think it would hurt our community and the services that they would be getting.
Mark Curry.
No. No.
Helping the time limit here. David Diaz.
Cut to the chase. So as Jim said, the total number of your property tax percentage that goes to Lake Havasu is 6.7%. So I would say that it's about every $100,000, it's like $2.85. So it's a number that, and that's annually. That's annually. So it's the market's not going to completely crash like it did in 2008, because the people that bought houses now usually paid cash or put huge down payments on them. In 2008, people were getting loans with stated income and other stuff with no credit, and it's not going to happen that way. But I'm not a believer in up and down seesaw either. Thank you.
Okay, that's going to conclude our 2022 Candidates Forum. Big round of applause for all of our candidates, please. This event was provided, of course, by Radio Central, the Lake Havasu Area Chamber of Commerce. Of course, today's and a big thank you, everyone, to the Lake Havasu Unified School District for helping to provide this performing arts center for our youth tonight. We're going to go back to regular scheduled programming. I believe the Ramsey Show.
And this is Drake Finney of Havasu Online TV. I'd like to thank everybody, including the Bradley Automotive Group, Bradley Ford, Bradley Chevy, Riverview Automotive, and Bradley Collision Center for allowing us to come out and be a part of this today and ensuring that we're here. You've seen all the candidate forums, and we'll be breaking them down individually and posting them over the next couple days so you can make a great informed decision on the election. And remember, by all means, definitely get out and do vote no matter what else you do. This is Drake Finney for Havasu Online TV. Have a great day, a great night, and we will catch you later. Just to answer that comment real quick, we were running off the acoustics, and yes, of the auditorium. So yes, we were at the mercy of those acoustics. Have a good night.